Thank you for choosing to listen to the sample audiobook from Artesia North. To listen to the full book, visit artesianorth.com, and with no further interruption. Chapter 1. Eddie Fisher left the Pinball Museum. It was an unusually warm day in March, and he cautioned himself to look at the temperature gauge on his old Ford truck. He silently admonished himself for buying the cheaper gauge, the one from the J.C. Whitney catalog, and not the more accurate one at the speed shop. Old Ford trucks were famous for overheating on country roads and didn't do much better rolling down the freeway either. As he tapped the indicator in a way that demanded the truth, not just reassurance, the rapid movement to the right caught his attention. There stood a man with a shovel positioned high in the air as he shouted to something at ground level, oblivious to the passing truck and its driver, who was flushed with the decision to either pass by or find out more. The steaming pressure that escaped the radiator hose appeared to given up the ghost and made the decision to stop for him. The radiator spewed a vaporous cloud through every ancient crack and opening, of which there were many, and under the ample metallic span of real estate that the massive hood occupied. Hoping that the problem was not the radiator, which would be a financial nightmare, Eddie's attention was drawn away from the immediate vehicle problem to the dramatic scene occurring in the front yard of the rundown craftsman home badly in need of a paint job. The middle-aged, balding Hispanic man screamed at the top of his lungs, "Mujer malvada!" Unable to understand the words of the enraged man, Eddie walked warily toward the volatile scene. "Hey man, what are you burying? That better not be a dog or a cat, man. You better not be hurting an animal." Eddie couldn't stand the thought of a helpless creature being mistreated, and by the screeching sound coming from the ground underneath the angry man, either human or frightened beast, they were definitely on their last legs, so to speak. "Mujer malvada, mujer malvada." The man shouted repeatedly. The visitor felt himself panic more with each step, and while he couldn't understand what the words meant, he did feel the fear in the man's voice as they were repeated. Eddie watched as the perpetrator could hardly speak through the panic in his voice, brandishing a small vanity mirror as he seemed to be trying to have the would-be rescuer see the reflection of something an undetermined nature. Eddie didn't know what drug the old man was on, but whatever it was, he knew he didn't want to tangle with it. The sound of the male voice was disrupted by the deafening and piercing alarm coming from the voice box of the victim being buried. To his astonishment, the sound came from a woman's head as shovels of dirt were being unceremoniously dumped on her with each desperate appeal for help. "Help me, sir, help me. He has gone crazy, he wishes me dead. Help me, please." The light-skinned woman was in danger of the final shovel of earth falling on her face and silencing her shrieking forever, as it drifted down from a man who laughed maniacally, obviously fulfilled as he completed his grisly mission. Eddie had seen enough and reached down to lift a log off of the pile near the propane tank and laid a wallop on the side of the morbid gardener. The man never saw it coming and fell like the oak tree did that donated the firewood log that laid him out cold. He heard the mumbling of the older man as he was barely conscious but managing to point at his subterranean victim in fear. Furtively removing dirt from the face of the woman, her rescuer realized that he would at best be able to clear enough dirt so that she could speak in breath, and as he moved to clear it away, he was struck by the sweet voice that calmly thanked him for her rescue. It was clear that the woman felt her fear subside and had complete confidence of her impending rescue despite the fact that her face was the only thing visible 2 feet beneath the garden surface. This calmness was in play despite the fact that her body was bound in burlap and planted like a large rose bush. "Thank you, sir. My husband has lost his mind. He is seeing visions. He thinks that I am trying to harm him. He is delusional." The subterranean woman spoke with a deliberate and lilting and kind voice, causing Eddie to be at a loss as to why her husband would be so cruel. He observed that her attacker was drifting in and out of consciousness, so he felt it to be relatively safe to run to his truck and grab his cell phone with which to call the police and fire department. "Will you be all right with your husband so close? I would like to call someone to help get you out." Please, sir, have no worries. My husband meant me no harm, as he is just a sick man. He is disabled because of your actions and can no longer do me harm, I am sure." The voice of the kind woman was so soothing that Eddie felt no danger in leaving her unattended. "I will be right back. I will just go get my phone." With those words, Eddie Fisher continued in his rescue attempt. The woman in the hole closed her eyes and counted the steps as her hero hurried to save her from a certain death. Allowing the correct amount of time to pass, she called quietly to her potential killer, who lay looking down at her with periods of clarity. "Husband, are you awake?" she asked gently. The man opened his eyes, now fully conscious, with a pounding headache. "What happened?" With a change in the tone of her voice, the woman felt free to speak to her oppressor. "I will live, and you will go away for a long time for trying to kill me. My hero showed up and saved me." "What do you mean, your hero?" the confused man asked as he rubbed his aching head. In a taunting voice that the old man was sick of hearing, the woman who was his wife refused to be silenced. "Maybe my people sent him to rescue me from you, you old goat. The world is in such trouble if you live, woman. You are evil on 2 feet, and you must die for the good of the world." The man's voice became high-pitched in the thought of the woman in the hole walking the earth again. Doing his best to move toward her, feebly trying to complete his murderous task, he could only become enraged as she tormented him verbally. Knowing that her time to speak clearly to her husband was ending, her voice became sickening to hear, especially to her failed killer. "You should have finished the job, old man. You should have finished the job." The sounds of sirens and the hurried voices of the rescuers drowned out her taunting voice so only her attacker could hear. Eddie Fisher stood next to his old truck as he watched the man being placed in a squad car and the victim removed from her hole in the ground and taken by ambulance to the hospital for observation. He felt the engine and was happy to feel the coolness, took out his pocket knife, and cut the end of the hose that had split open, and was happy to have enough left to reconnect to the top of the radiator. He then looked around the disheveled yard for a can or a bucket, and with the hose secured, he could get home with a little bit of water, while hoping not to overheat again. As he gathered a dented garden water can, silently wondering how he was going to pour water into a 3-inch hole with a device that was designed to spread a pattern of water at least 6 inches wide. Realizing he was now alone in the yard that was formerly the scene of absurd violence, he saw the odd arrangement of what looked like car parts stacked in boxes next to a packed suitcase and a set of high heels. Eddie couldn't believe his eyes. Stack after stack of catalytic converters by the dozen, along with the evidence of the woman of the house, packed to leave. He had seen enough strange crap on this day, and all he could think of was just how much he just wanted to go home. Thank you for listening to the sample audiobook from Artesia North. To listen to the full book, visit artesianorth.com.